Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to be here today. You all have spoiled me for the last 2 weeks with your comments while I have been away on holiday, and I am just so excited to be here with all of you, my friends, and share with you the new makeup products and the new fragrances I picked up on my travels. And oh my goodness, I'm just so excited to be here. This is gonna be long, it's gonna be chatty. We are gonna apply things while we're talking about product. Let's settle in for a friendly chat and applying makeup. To get started with today's makeup look, I'm gonna start with my skin prep. The first step in my skin prep routine and the last step of my skin care routine is always sunscreen. I use the same chemical sunscreens on my neck and on my ears every day just because they go on clear and they don't transfer onto clothing. When I was away on holiday, my skincare routine was a little bit more simplified and I was shaving more often because we were going out every single day. And sometimes your sunscreen, makeup, whatever you have, if you've got like stubble or anything on the face, it doesn't always lay very nicely and it doesn't look very nice. So I was shaving every single day and my skin was not having it. So I popped by Space NK and purchased a sunscreen that I've been very curious to try out. Ultra Violette Clean Screen Fragrance-Free Weightless Mineral Sunscreen SPF 30. Sunscreen filter in this is titanium dioxide. Ideally, I would like something with an SPF 50 or higher, but 30 works for me, especially with the way I apply it. I'll insert a clip here of me applying it because I wanted to give this a full 15 to 20 minutes to dry down before I proceeded with makeup. This was a really welcome addition to my travel skincare makeup arsenal because it was really soothing and it creates this really lovely smoothing base on the skin. I am more on the fair light side and my undertones are more neutral cool. My neck is a little bit more warm yellow just from sun damage throughout the years. This on my skin tone, as you can see here, once it dries down, it looks pretty much like my skin tone with the redness minimized. If you have a deeper skin tone than I do, or you are a more warm golden undertone, you might find this leaves more of a noticeable cast if you are applying that true dose dependent 2 milligrams per squared centimeter, which for me is about 8 pumps of this foundation all over, which I apply in 2 layers. While I was away, I also received a PR package from the brand City Beauty. On my channel, I have spoken about how much I enjoy the City Beauty City Lips Plumping Glosses. The one I keep here at my desk most days to get ready is the shade Tinseltown, and I keep their clear shade in my kind of day-to-day tote bag. While these glosses do plump the lips, I also find they give a nice layer of hydration and they have a nice slip to the lips before you proceed with a lip product later on your routine. In the PR package from City Beauty, they gifted me the shades Clear, which is just a classic clear gloss, San Diego, which is a warm pinky coral, and the shade Crimson, which was a nice muted red shade. I already have the clear, and the other 2 shades weren't really something I was going to wear, so I wanted to share my love of the City Beauty glosses, and I gifted it to some of my friends, and they love it. City Beauty also gifted me their lid lifting treatment to smooth and tighten the eye area, and it's something that you're supposed to use twice a day. A lot of times with these plumping treatments around the eyes, they'll have different humectants and some different ingredients to help smooth the appearance of the eyes immediately. And that's something I do find with this. As soon as you apply it, it has this nice cosmetically elegant formula that does create a little bit of a smoothing, almost like a filter-like effect under the eyes. And when you apply your makeup on top, it goes on a little bit smoother. I would be very curious to see how this makes my eye area look with continued usage. So far, I really enjoy it. Thank you, City Beauty, for sending those my way. Let's get to some of the stuff I purchased while I was in London. I have to say, I went a little crazy with the shopping because there's so many great places to shop that I've heard about that we don't have here in Canada. And all of the sales associate I interacted with while I was away were absolutely lovely. And they were just so helpful and they really made you want to shop. That's something I don't really experience here in Canada or when I lived in the United States. That's not something I realized. Like a lot of times associates, sometimes you'll run into ones that are really like friendly, but most times they're just let me know if you need need help, let me know when you're ready to cash out. My experience with all the sales associates I interacted with while I was in London, they were so friendly, so helpful, so engaging. Even if you said you were just browsing or looking around, they were there to help and just really engage when it made me want to shop. So I loved that strategy. One of the places I went to while I was there is Liberty London, and the little beauty hall was so busy, but there were so many little boutique little brands I was so curious to try. Of course, I went to Lisa Eldridge. I bought quite a bit of Lisa Eldridge on this trip. So we are going to start with the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin and Makeup Enhancing Mist. This is something you can use as a skin prep, or you can use this as a finishing spray, or you can use it as something to dampen your products, make pigments show up a little bit brighter. I've been enjoying it as a skin prep. I really love how micro fine the mist on this is. While that's doing its thing, I'm going to go ahead and start with my highlighting routine because I always like to highlight under my base products. Going in with another Lisa Eldridge product, this is the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin Elevated Glow in the shade Pink Moon. From what I saw, it seems like this is a popular shade because there was a few places that were sold out of the shade Pink Moon and the Elevated Glow, and this is my favorite of the shades that I've tried. I love using this under my complexion product, whether that's foundation or concealer, and I like to apply it right to the high points of my cheeks because I really like the glow it gives, and it does have a film former in this, which just helps to further smooth out this eye area. Right before I left, I put up a little note that said I was going to be away for 2 weeks. And I said if you all have any places you recommend I visit, or if you just want to chat with me while I'm away, to message me on Instagram or leave me a comment. And oh my goodness, you all are so sweet. Some of you were so quick to message me, and I had such a great time interacting with you, chatting with you, going to the places in London you suggested visiting. Like one of the places that was suggested to me a few times was the Tate Museum, and it was a really interesting blend of different styles of art. There was more of like a modern sculptural side, and then the other half, which I really loved, was more classic portraiture, and I loved it so much. To start getting some color on my skin, we are going to use a product I was so excited to buy. This is one of the things I told my husband before we even left I will be purchasing while I'm in London so I can get the perfect shade match, and that is the new Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin Enhancing Tint. I purchased the shade T3. We stayed in, I think the area was called Chelsea, but we were really close to the Battersea Power Station, which is a really lovely shopping center. And in that location, there was a Space NK, which I've heard about Space NK. I mean, when I was at Nordstrom, we had a little Space NK gondola with a few like more specialized brands. It was so interesting actually getting to visit a Space NK in store and seeing they had the Lisa Eldridge Seamless Skin Tint. I was very excited to find my shade in store, and I had played a little bit with the shade matcher online. That was a little tricky because I didn't previously have a good shade match in the Seamless Skin Foundation based off the little shade bubble things I purchased when the foundation first came out. I had originally purchased shade 5 in the Seamless Skin Foundation. It was an okay match, like the overall depth of color was decent, but it was a little too neutral warm, and that undertone made my skin just look a little flat. It didn't make me look very lively because it almost neutralized the redness I have in my skin too much. So I was playing around with different shades, and I kind of had an idea I would be shade T3, but I was also going towards T5, which is more of a neutral olive, which I think there was a note on the website that was good for minimizing redness, which is something I struggle with. When I was there, we found the shade. The sales associate was so lovely. She's like, yeah, that's gonna be a really great shade match. She gave me a little pot filled to the brim with the skin tint in shade T3. T3. She's like, just in case it takes you a little bit to find this in another location, I want to make sure you have enough. And if you need more, come back and I'll give you more. And I was like, thank you so much. She was so lovely. So that pot that she gave me of the Seamless Skin Tint made me fall even more in love. Anytime we ran across a Space and K, I was always in there looking for shade T3, and everywhere was sold out of T3. Luckily, one of the last days I was in London, we went to Selfridges, and the beauty hall in Selfridges, oh my goodness, that is a ton of beauty brands, and it was a little overwhelming. I was like, oh my goodness, I don't think I've seen this many beauty options in one place. I found it more overwhelming than the perfume hall on the ground floor of Harrods. Like that was intense. But the beauty hall at Selfridges was just, wow. I was not prepared for the volume of options and people. But luckily, the sales associate at the Lisa Eldridge counter at Selfridges, he was really, really lovely, really helpful, and they had the skin tint in shade T3, so that is how I got the skin tint, and I love it so much. I mean, you can see here, I've maybe used a total of 3 drops, one on each cheek, one on my forehead, and this is pretty much the level of coverage I wore most days when I was in London after I received the sample from Space and K. It is just one of those things that you can apply with your fingers or a brush. I'm using the Rare Beauty blush brush. This is very reminiscent of the BK Beauty number 101 contoured foundation brush. It's a little bit smaller and the bristles are a little bit more feathery. They're a little bit more spaced out. On vacation, the brush I packed with me, and this is something we'll talk about more later, all of my makeup and fragrances I packed for the trip were in this little bag. I can do a lot of my makeup with my fingers, so I wanted to keep the brushes limited. So the only brush I brought with me was the Laura Geller retractable kabuki brush, which is just a little slide kabuki brush. Not my favorite brush, but it did the job while I was away. But with the Lisa Eldridge skin tint, most days I used my fingers and it applies like a dream. When I was at Liberty London purchasing the Lisa Eldridge mist, the 2 girls working at the Lisa Eldridge counter there, they were so lovely. And I had first asked if they had the skin tint in T3 and it had not launched in Liberty London yet. So I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, well, wait, the counter there is like right near a window, so you're getting a lot of really nice natural light. I was like, can I get matched for the foundation? And the sales associate was, yeah, sure. So she's like, I think you're gonna be shade 7. So we started off with shade 7 and I left with shade 7. Both of the girls there, they were just so friendly, so helpful, and they were just so knowledgeable about all the products. It made shopping so enjoyable. This is about half a pump. You don't need much. This shade is really good. This is what I was hoping for when I ordered shade 5, but it gives me that neutrality without being too heavy. So what I've been doing, this is just a little bit on my finger, and I like a little bit of extra coverage here on the fronts of my cheeks, under my eyes, here on my nose where I get redness, mostly in the center portions of my face. Skin tint does such a great job at evening out the overall tone, but sometimes I like something that's a little bit more perfected. And the combination of using the skin tint with the foundation in a more targeted application, they play so well together, and you can create this really lovely second skin appearance. Like, you are perfected, but it doesn't look like heavy makeup. I love how this makes my skin look. It's just so beautiful. Once the foundation and the skin tint, once they both kind of warmed up, adjusted to the temperature of the skin, they just melt into the skin and you can press them in and it just looks like your skin. It's not fussy. It's so easy. If we're comparing this to some of my favorite foundations I reach for all the time, like the number 1 de Chanel Revitalizing Red Camellia foundation, this leans a little bit more on that satin matte side. The Chanel foundation, it is a very skin-like foundation, but it gives a little bit more of a glow. And I find between the two, the coverage is pretty consistent between the two. They're both going to be more of a light medium coverage, but you can adapt it to be a little bit more fuller in coverage or a little bit more sheer in coverage. They're both great if you want foundation that looks like skin. I really, really like it. And they're both expensive, but compared between the two, the Lisa Eldridge is a little bit more affordable. Since I wasn't here in Canada or at my parents' house in the States, I was very much out of my normal routine, and I found myself doing things in a much different routine. Normally, I do my makeup and skincare in a very kind of like step-by-step routine. There, I found myself doing my base, walking away, coming back, and I don't know if it's just the products I was using or what. I loved how it looked. So we're going to take a moment now to look at some of the other products I purchased while this warms up, melts into the skin, and then we'll proceed with the color portion. And one of the first things I purchased while I was there, a fragrance from Jo Malone I've had my eyes on for quite some time. This is the Jo Malone Scarlet Poppy Cologne and Tints. The first day we went out, we wanted to stick local because we were both feeling a little jet lagged, and we were like, let's go to the Battersea Power Station. And I felt so wonderstruck. It was so interesting seeing this old like power plant being converted into a shopping center that is multi-level. There was flats in the uppermost level. It was so enchanting in an industrial kind of way. The little Jo Malone boutique on the ground floor, the sales associate working there, he was so friendly, and I wanted to leave with a lot more, but I used some restraint. I wasn't going to purchase anything. And then my husband was like, you've mentioned that fragrance before. I haven't been able to find it here in Toronto. So he's like, why don't you just go ahead and get it? On my husband's advice, I went ahead and purchased it. The sales associate customized it for me. On the lid, there is a ZD, my initials, and I chose the black ribbon because I felt like the black ribbon went the best with this bottle, and I put a little L charm on it for London. And Scarlet Poppy, I believe this originally came out in either 2020 or 2021 as a limited edition item, and then it made its way back into the permanent range. And the Cologne Intense is a little bit more intense than the traditional. Did I just call Jo Malone Bobbi Brown? Who knows? Maybe, possibly. Companies are under the Estee Lauder family. The Jo Malone Cologne Intense are more intense than the traditional colognes. There's a higher concentration of ingredients. When you smell them and then you smell something like Peony Blush Suede or English Pear and Freesia, you can smell that these are heavier. They aren't going to be beast mode fragrances by any means. The Cologne Intenses I've tried, I've had this one, and then I also at one point had the Rose Water Vanilla, and they both last for about 4 to 5 hours, which for me is pretty good for a Jo Malone fragrance. Scarlet Poppy is a really beautiful powdery floral. It gives you that kind of warm, cozy lipstick. I'm not sure on the notes. I haven't looked up the notes yet, but to my nose, I wouldn't be surprised if you have some type of orris or iris in here. There's a warm coziness that comes from something a little bit more creamy, like a vanilla, like a woody vanilla. I don't know. It's like a cozy lipstick. It's like a full coverage matte lipstick, like a Lisa Eldridge True Velvet lip color, and a really plush cashmere sweater. This is me a great day-to-day fragrance for the fall, winter months. Beautiful. The entire store was on sale. Fragrance and makeup were 50% off. And I had heard that the white musk in the UK market was different than the white musk we had here. So of course I wanted to buy white musk while I was there, and I don't think it's any different. Luckily it was half off. To me it smells like white musk. It doesn't smell different than the white musk we had here, but I did not have the eau de parfum concentration, so glad to have that. And if Body Shop's gone, I'm glad to have this classic fragrance. This is just a great clean out of the shower scent. One that I purchased on a whim just because it was half off is one from this collection that came out last year. I believe this collection came out, it was either spring or autumn of 2023, Full Iris. And it's okay, I wore this a few nights to bed when I was in London. I really enjoy it. My husband is not a fan of it at all. To him, this smells like Glossier You. Glossier You, in my opinion, is more of a powdery cosmetic scent. It smells very much like an Urban Decay eyeshadow. This, on the other hand, it does have that similar note. It's a very kind of skin musk scent with a little bit of like a powdery iris note. It's kind of like the more masculine version of Glossier You. It has a little bit more of that kind of like gruff to it. It's a little bit more rugged on the edges. It's nice. I layer this with Glossier You, and it's just a nice kind of genderless fluid scent when you want something that doesn't scream, hi, I'm here. It's just you, but enhanced. It's really nice. And if you can get this at 50% off and you felt like GlossL was a little too feminine for your taste, then you might enjoy this. Our first full day back in Toronto after our trip was the first day of the Sephora Spring Savings event. This year I'm very proud of myself. I only purchased 3 items. With the products I purchased while I was in London and just the products I already have in my collection, I got everything that I really wanted in the one go, and that turns out to be 3 products. So, you know, small victory for not spending a ton at Sephora. So again, I'm going to take a little bit of my Lisa Eldridge Elevated Glow in Pink Moon, and I'm just going to put that on the back of my hand. The first product I purchased from Sephora was a mini size of the Rare Beauty Soft Pinch Liquid Blush in the shade Happy, and I was very curious to try this because the online shade description is described as a cool pink, and you all know I love cool tones. This, to my eye, is not cool toned. Rare Beauty Happy, and just for reference, for a cool tone pink, here's my cup I have my water in. This is a cool pink. This blush does not feel like a cool pink. That being said, I still enjoy it. The Rare Beauty blush formula is a little intense for my personal preference. I like mixing it with my Lisa Eldridge Elevated Glow to dilute it a little bit, and working with the Rare Beauty brush on the back of my hand. I think I've got something that is going to be a little bit more pigment than I was originally going for, but that's okay. We can calm it down. So even though I wouldn't call it a cool pink, I still think it's a really beautiful shade. Let's start unpacking my little bag I have with me. And on the top of the bag, I have the free fragrances I packed with me. I wanted something great for every day, something great for going to bed, and then something good for nights out. So my night out fragrance was Tom Ford Rose Prick, and I'm trying to use this up. I've almost used it up, and I just don't love this as much as I used to. My palette for scent has changed a lot over the last couple years, and I used to really love this. Now it feels a little heavy for me. This is something I spray a maximum of 2 sprays. Normally one of those sprays is something I spray in the air and walk through, because this can just become a little overwhelming. It's a little bit more of a leathery rose than I personally care for. Leather is not something I really gravitate towards in fragrances now. I like things that are a little bit more fresh, floral, or even powdery. Not a bad scent, just not something I can see myself repurchasing when I run out. Next was my bedtime scent, Maison Margiela Replica range. This is Lazy Sunday Morning. This is just a clean, bubbly, kind of like skin musk scent. It's very reminiscent to something like the Body Shop's White Musk, but it's more floral. I don't know the notes, and I don't like relying on Fragrantica for all of my fragrance notes unless I'm doing something like a review. I like to interpret the notes on my own. So for this, I get something that reminds me of like a clean white musk and peony, because it does have that very kind of aquatic floral edge. I enjoy it. I am glad I purchased the smaller size. This was during like a Sephora fragrance event, so I was able to get this for a discounted price. It satisfied the curiosity, but I do not think this is something I would purchase a full size. It just doesn't excite me enough to spend the full price for. On the other hand, I really loved the everyday fragrance I bought. This is from the Clean Reserve range, and this is Radiant Nectar. Oh my goodness, I love this. Again, this is a clean musk. This is definitely going to be a little bit more of a bright, fruity musk. It smells very much like your skin warmed by the sun, but coupled with fresh notes like pear. If I'm not mistaken, this does have pear from what I saw online, and I really love this. The only bugbear I have with this is it smells almost exactly like Ariana Grande's God is a Woman, and that's not a complaint. I love Ariana Grande, God is a Woman. This is really good. I find the longevity compared between this one from Clean Reserve and the one from Ariana Grande is pretty interchangeable. They both last for about 3 to 4 hours on the skin before I kind of go anosmic to it. I do also own the Ariana Grande God is a Woman body oil, so I normally layer them, then either this or the God is a Woman. foundation will wear for about 6 to 8 hours. I love both, and if I could find the Clean Reserve Radiant Nectar on sale for cheaper than the Ariana Grande, I would purchase this again. But for me, when this runs out, I'm gonna stick with Ariana Grande just because it's a little bit more affordable and it's something I like to wear very liberally, so I go through it on the quicker side. Next in my bag was the concealer I brought with me, and this is the Bobbi Brown Skin Corrector Stick. I use the shade Light Bisque. After I purchased the Lisa Eldridge foundation and started using that as my concealer, I wasn't reaching this too much just because my under eyes never felt dark. I never felt the need for a corrector, but what I like about the Bobbi Brown Skin Correct Stick is it, for me, blurs that line between corrector and concealer. And I also wanted to have this with me to compare because with the different stores that they had in London, I was able to compare all of the color correctors I was curious about trying in person. So I was able to try the Bobbi Brown against the Huda Beauty, against the Chanel, and I still prefer the Bobbi Brown just for the color alone. Huda Beauty Faux Filter Corrector in the shade Cherry Blossom, so close, but it's a little too saturated for my nurses. I don't have dark under eyes. I get a little bit of a blue-purple tint, especially during allergy season, and this works really well for me, so I will be sticking to the Bobbi Brown. The foundation product I packed with me was the bareMinerals Original Foundation. I used the shade Fair 01. I'm going to go ahead and use this now as my setting powder for the first 3 to 4 days. That is what I did, and I love it. The only the only issue I have is I find the bareMinerals is a little bit more of a time-consuming foundation. I like to take my time. I always start by doing this stippling motion all over. This will gently spread the powder all over the skin, and then I will pick up whatever is left in the lid and then buff over. And for me, this just kind of connects all the little particles that we just buffed over. And for me to get the level of coverage I wanted, which is normally like a light medium coverage, I would repeat this about 2 to 3 times, and that takes some time. What I loved about the Lisa Eldridge Skin Tint is I can apply it with my fingers in what felt like seconds, where the bareMinerals foundation, even though it gave a very perfected look, it does take a little bit more time. And a lot of days, especially if we were just going to go sightseeing and I knew I was going to be touching up my sunscreen throughout the day, or if it was calling for rain or something and I wasn't too fussed with my face being perfect all day long, I just didn't want to take the time to apply the bareMinerals Swirl Tap Buff for 2 to 3 layers. But when I did, I'm always impressed by how beautiful it looks. I mean, even this one layer over top of the skin tint, it toned down the blush to make it look like a more natural blush from within kind of look, and I think it's gorgeous. I still love this, especially for days where I want my skin to look very perfected. I don't want to use a liquid. It's just so beautiful. And if you compare this versus another favorite like the MAC Studio Fix, the MAC Studio Fix is going to be more of a matte finish. It's even more matte than the bareMinerals matte version, and you're going to get more coverage off the bat. And if we compare this to my other kind of everyday favorite, the Laura Geller Baked Bronze-n-Brighten, I still prefer that over the bareMinerals just because it's pressed. It's quicker to apply. I do wish I had a better shade match. I have Porcelain and I've tried the shade, I think it's called Fair, but Fair is a little too dark, a little too warm, peachy orange for me, and Porcelain can be a little bit too light in the spring, summer, where bareMinerals Fair is kind of like a great shade match for me all year long. And that leads me into the MAC Studio Fix Powder Plus Foundation. This is a powder foundation, but I use a shade that is a fraction deeper than my skin tone. This is the shade In4. This used to be my foundation shade match until I did a series of IPL treatments to help lessen up the appearance of some of my rosacea and sun damage. And then the shade started looking a little too dark for me, but I've kept it on hand and I've repurchased it because I love this for blurring the lines between contour and bronzer. Since this is in the same kind of spectrum of my skin tone, allows me to add warmth, add structure without looking orange or too heavy. I can just warm up my skin ever so slightly without looking orange or muddy. Now, a product that snuck into my bag, and I can't say it snuck in because it's not like it crawled in there all in. So it's something that I just, on the last minute, I was like, I want that product is the bareMinerals highlighting blush. This is the Gin Nude highlighting blush illuminator in the shade Rose Glow. And I really love using this as a blush highlighter hybrid. It's a little too deep for me to use as an independent highlighter because it's darker than my skin tone. If I swatch it here on the back of my hand, you can see it definitely adds a peachy rosy tint to my skin. Used lightly and diffused along the high points of my cheek, it helps to play into this slightly sun-kissed effect that I really love, and it's quick and it's easy. I do use this as my base layer. When I was away, I would apply this and then I would put my blush on top. But now that I'm back home, it's warmed up. I went out for brunch on Sunday with my friends and it was 19 degrees, which is what, upper 60s, maybe low 70s in Fahrenheit. It felt like spring. It felt like I was still in London. It did not feel like it was the cold Arctic Canadian, normally what we experience here in Toronto. I was all for it and I wanted bronzer. And bronzer I miss is still my favorite. It was my favorite for the last 2 years, my best of. This is the Laura Bait Bronze-n-Brighten in the shade Fair. I just like using my MAC 150S. This is just my favorite general powder brush, whether I'm applying a powder foundation, a setting powder, a bronzer. If I want a powder product over a large area, I want to diffuse it or build it, this is my favorite brush. The two different MAC locations I worked at in Canada, I worked at a MAC freestanding store and I worked at a MAC inside Nordstrom. When you start your shift, the first thing you do is grab your brush belt and there's like a communal bucket of brushes and you could put together your brush belt. And I always started off adding brushes to my brush belt by getting at least 2, if not 3 of the 150S. A lot of people overlook this brush because it's an older brush. It's not the most exciting brush, but it is such a beautiful powder brush. I honestly feel like if you had this, maybe something like the 190, which is the classic paddle foundation brush, and a 219 or a 220, I can't remember, the white blending eyeshadow brush and the black bristle brush. Those 4 brushes you can pretty much complete a full face with. A little bit here on the outside corner of my eyes just to add a little bit of warmth. Actually, you know what? Stamp a little bit more here. Doesn't need to be perfect because we're going for effect. That just makes my face feel like, hi, it's spring, we're here. The blush I packed with me is my Hourglass Ambient Lighting Blush in the shade Ethereal Glow. This is a really lovely cool pink blended with the Ethereal Light finishing powder, and it just gives a really beautiful glow to the skin. This is not going to be the most flattering blush for the most wide range of skin tones, but I would say if you are a fair to light skin tone and you have more neutral leaning cool undertones, you might really enjoy this. If you have a warmer skin tone, this could be a really nice brightening shade because that cool pink is quite enlivening, but my fear is since you have this more kind of off-white powder with this cool pink, if you have more of a medium to dark skin, this could go a little gray on the skin. There was one day we went to Covent Gardens and I was just, again, I felt so incredibly wonderful seeing all these little shops. I mean, it felt like you were walking through like Diagon Alley from the Harry Potter universe, which makes sense because, you know, that's, if I'm not mistaken, that was Diagon Alley was like the magical London atmosphere. It was just, anyway, it was so cute. And there was a Guerlain boutique. There was a few of the more premium line Guerlain fragrances I was very curious about. I have to say, smelling them in person, getting some of them on my skin, I no longer feel compelled to buy them. They're beautiful. Rose Cherie is still my favorite, but it feels like something I've got a lot of in my collection already. For me, the classic Guerlain fragrances like L'Encens Magique and Insolence are my favorites. They are so beautiful. But the sales associate helping us there, she was so lovely. And I noticed retail associates, they normally have some type of sales goal they want to hit. And if you are a really friendly sales associate and you just create this really wonderful shopping experience, I'm going to buy something just to help you reach your target. So with her, I ended up purchasing one of the new Guerlain Terracotta Blush. This is in the shade 01 Rose Claire. Looks like this. It's a nice mauvey pink. I'm gonna use that same MAC 150S. I have not tried this out yet, but from what I've heard, they are quite buildable, and I don't want too much. Like, I want to add a little bit of burn to the bronze. So I'm just going to take that here on the front of the cheek, more so tapping. And for more of a cool tone skin, I like working in a pink with a bronze, because most of us with fair pinky skin, when we get excess sun exposure, which would normally tan most people, we're going to pull more pinky red. We're going to flush because we are burning. So I like to add in the burn back to my bronze so things just feel more realistic and really nice. This does have that Guerlain fragrance compared to some other things I have from Guerlain and things I've had in the past. This doesn't have that normal kind of coconut scent. This does smell a little bit more floral. Really beautiful though, very sheer. This is be a great addition if you want to spend more of a premium price for a mauvey pink blush. Really pretty. Also purchased the new Kiss Kiss Bee Glow Oil in the shade 258 Rose Glow. I already have a gloss on, but I want to just show you how beautiful this is. It's not too different from the Dior Lip Glow Oil. I personally prefer the fragrance and the taste on the lips, because the Dior, to me, it tastes like oil on the lips. It has this very, like, I don't know, it tastes more of like a cooking oil versus something beautiful on the lips. This, to me, tastes like Turkish delight on the lips. It has that very kind of, it's almost like the way something like Killian Love Don't Be Shy smells. It's that kind of orange blossom floral scent. It's so plush yet comforting. It's really enjoyable. Finishing off the products I packed with me, I brought my Ulta Bouncy Cream Shadow in the shade Macaron, just because this is so easy to apply. You get it all over the finger and you wipe it right over the eyelid. No rhyme, no reason. Cheap, cheerful, and so easy to use. I feel like I'm in a constant state of fear that I am going to go back to the States, go to Ulta to buy one, and it's not going to be there. I use this. This is probably my most used eyeshadow. This is my third little compact I've been through. It normally lasts me for about a year, and I use it once, twice a week without fail. I love this so much, but I feel like it's one of those things that I don't hear people talk about, and it makes me wary that I'm just going to go to Ulta one day to purchase it because I can't get it here in Canada, and it's not going to be there, and that makes me sad and nervous. Speaking of things that are discontinued that I can't get my hands on, is another product I purchased that day I was in Covent Gardens. One of my favorite fragrance reviewers here on YouTube, Justine, her channel is Jus de Rose. She speaks so highly about Miller Harris Scherzo, and I went there to smell it. It was not my favorite. My husband was not a fan of it at all, so I didn't purchase that one, but the sales associate shared with me this one called Violet Ida, and clearly I loved it because I purchased it. It is a really beautiful powdery violet scent. This is more of a cool weather floral. You get that warm powdery violet. It's in a similar family to Scarlet Poppy, but comparing the two, this definitely does smell more cool weather. Again, you are that true velvet Lisa Eldridge lipstick coupled with a warm cashmere sweater. This is going to be more of like a cool weather transitional floral. This could even work in like a spring evening, like now, if I was going out for like a dinner date, this could be a really nice fragrance. It's very luxurious, it's very decadent, it's very grounded. There's something very enveloping about it that I enjoy. The one thing that makes me sad about this fragrance is it was on what the sales associate called a secret sale. So I believe this retails for like £130 if I'm not mistaken, and the day I purchased it, it was on sale for £40. They were out of it in the Covent Gardens location, but she messaged a sales associate at the other location. It's near where the Harry Potter stage play is at. But anyway, that sales associate let me know that this is on sale for £40 because it's being discontinued, and that makes me very sad, but thankfully I got a bottle and it's beautiful. I love it a lot. For eyebrows, I kept kept it very simple. I only brought with me my e.l.f. Wow Brow in the shade Taupe. Yes, Taupe. And this is just my favorite brow product. All I need to do is tweeze my eyebrows, trim any hairs that are getting outside the lines, and then I can brush this over. I've mentioned in some other videos that my microblading has begun to fade out, and I don't think I'm going to retouch it, but there are some areas where it feels like the pigment has just kind of left the building. So what I like to do there is I take the Wow Brow, focus more on the tip of the spoolie, and I will use that almost just to press in a little product where I need it. If I'm going to do something where I'm taking more time, then I will use a little bit of a brow pencil. For day to day, I can't be fussed with using an eyebrow pencil or marker. I just use tinted brow gel and call it a day. I have one more product I purchased that day when I was at Liberty London, and this is one of the new Lisa Eldridge Seamless Glide Eye Pencils, Cinder Smoke. I don't like to do a precise line, so with this pencil I really enjoy just doing a few dots right at the root of my lashes. Before I go on to the other side to blend, I'll just take a small brush. This is my BK Beauty times Angie Hot Flashy 8501, and I like to angle down towards the root of my lash and scribble back and forth. This pencil is so easy to blend, and just with a little bit of buffing, I'm going to lighten my pressure, and I'm going to continue to buff that right over that shimmery eyeshadow. It's almost like I've taken this kind of daytime bright-eyed wash to something a little bit more smoky, or what I would call smoky, because I'm not a big smoky eye person in my day-to-day life, unless it's like a party or something. But let's be honest, I go to a party like quarterly, not something I attend frequently. But this is something that if I wanted to take a look from day to night and make things a little bit more dramatic without being too dramatic, this is something that I would really enjoy doing. And while this seems so simple, like dotting an eyeliner on and then blending, a lot of eye pencils aren't this malleable. A lot of times either they will blend out and smooth out like you want them to, but then they don't last, or some that last, they don't move. This is that really nice hybrid of, now I like to do one more blend, so this would be something where I go on and start putting together my outfit for the night, then I'll come back, do another blend, and then put on just the finishing touches for the look. And this is normally where I start trying to figure out what fragrance I'm going to wear. This was one of those things, like I told my husband before we even left the country, I am buying this in London, and that is from a classic British perfume house. This is from Penhaligon, and this is called The Favorite. I've heard about this from a few different content creators I really love. Erin from Erin Nicole Beauty spoke highly about this, and Freddie of Freddie My Love also spoke very highly. Look how cute this bottle is. The big pink bow, just the very classic bottle. It is so beautiful. It's so beautiful. This is definitely like, I know I've looked at the notes for this in the past. I don't know them off the top of my head. If I had to guess smelling it, I would say there's Violet. There's something a little bit more bright. It's got a little bit more of a zing to it, which makes this feel more spring summer compared to something like Full Iris or any of the other ones we've talked about today. Definitely smells more spring summer. There's something that reminds me of Amouage Mimosa Love, which is sadly discontinued, I think. But it's got that kind of bright mimosa flower spark to it, something powdery, something slightly vintage with reminds me of rose. It's just a really beautiful decadent scent, and something that fascinated with me this is when you first spray it, it does have a very beastly aroma. Like when I sprayed it in the washroom, I did my normal like 1 2 3 4 5 6, and normally when I do that my husband says nothing about it, and he's like, oh yeah, you smell nice. This one, he was in the bedroom on the far side, so we were opposite ends of the flat, and he's like, what did you spray? That is intense. And I'm like, really? It does settle down into a really beautiful skin scent, and I loved it so much. I also purchased the hand cream, and there was another fragrance I was very curious about, but Penhaligon's is quite pricey, so I didn't want to go crazy and buy 2 full-size bottles. So the sales associate told me about these little atomizers. So it's just your basic little atomizer, and when you're finished with the fragrance, there's a little thing on the bottom, and you can just refill it. And when you purchase an atomizer from Penhaligon, they will fill it with the fragrance of your choice, and I chose one of their newer ones called Kiss of Bliss. It's a really beautiful floral tea fragrance. It's almost like a mix of a rose puchong tea, and I'm thinking about rose puchong because we had one day when we were out for afternoon tea and it stuck with me, blended with a really crisp matcha tea. It's really beautiful. It could be a little bit more long lasting, but a lot of times with those fresh floral tea scents, longevity is not something you're going to get a lot of. It's just very fresh, it's very pleasant, easy to top up on a warm, hot, humid day. The mascara I brought with me, it dried out while I was on vacation, so the last few days I just didn't wear mascara. That was my Tower 28 Make Waves mascara in the shade Drift. I love this. It just dried out too quickly. I'm adamant about changing out my mascaras every 3 months, and normally sometimes I'll feel like I can push my mascaras a little bit past that 3-month mark, but this was about 2.5 months, and it was done. Looked in my little makeup backup bin, and we've got the Maybelline Sky High Mascara, and this is in the color Burgundy Haze 793. When the Sky High Mascara first released, I tried it in the black brown and I really enjoyed it. So when I saw it was available in colors, I was very interested and I wanted to try Burgundy. So first impressions, it applies really well. It doesn't look purple on my eyelashes. I mean, if anything, it looks a little bit closer, deep purple, almost like a purple black. It has a little bit more impact than brown does. I think it's really nice. The only thing that kind of threw me off is I forgot how flexible the brush is, which is not a bad thing. Just be cognizant that it is a flexible brush, so you need to keep mind of your application if you're someone who generally uses something that has more of a dense, stiff brush. Just because these more flexible brushes, sometimes you need to kind of put a little bit more muscle in and press down and wiggle back and forth to really get between the roots of the lashes. It looks nice. It's a nice mascara, and even though it's giving some definition to the eye area, it doesn't feel as harsh as black. It doesn't feel like you just see this black line around the eye. So that's really nice, very much welcomed, and a really positive first impression of the Maybelline mascara. Now, a store that we stopped in while we were at the Battersea Power Station, just because it looked cute, was L'Occitane, and we have L'Occitane here in Canada. There's a new one at the mall. I've used products from there. I love their almond shave oil for years, and then I just stopped using it and I forgot about it. I used to also really like their hand cream. But anyway, right before we left for our trip, we just casually one day walked into the L'Occitane here at our local mall, and they shared with us these 2 new fragrances coming out for Mother's Day. I can't remember the name. One has a tall rectangular glass bottle with red, and the other one, same bottle, but green. I love the red one. My husband loved the green one. The red one is beautiful. To me, it smells like the classic Jergens Cherry Blossom Almond body lotion. It's so beautiful. When we were at the Battersea Power Station, we saw this fragrance, which I had never seen before, and come to find out, this was the UK Mother's Day scent, and this is the Herbae Iris Pallida. And very interesting. Again, this is something that is in a similar vein to GlossL or Body Shop's Full Iris. Even though it's similar, I love the packaging. I like how the little straw inside that pulls the juice up looks like a stem. And this scent, it was just when I didn't want anything too heavy or too powerful, I loved this. Compared to the Body Shop Full Iris or GlossL, this is definitely more floral. You are getting that kind of signature powdery iris jolt, but I wouldn't be surprised if this had some type of floral, like a rose, maybe even something like jasmine, to brighten it up, make it just feel more of like a floral bouquet with iris versus being a solely iris scent. Once it's on the skin and it dries down, it does feel a lot more kind of fresh, flirty, definitely leaning more feminine in scent profile than the Body Shop Full Iris. If you're going to kind of put together a trilogy, the Body Shop Full Iris would be more masculine. GlossL is going to kind of be right in that middle kind of unisex, genderless fragrance, and then the Herbae Iris Palladium is definitely going to lean more feminine. That being said, I love this. I don't care if a fragrance is masculine, feminine, or whatever. If it smells good and I like it, I'm gonna wear it. One of my favorite experiences while we were there, one day my husband and I went to Fortnum and Mason for tea, and our tea experience at Fortnum and Mason was just so incredible. Wait staff was just so lovely, so accommodating, so friendly, and it was just a beautiful experience. And of all the different like little sandwiches, I love the cucumber sandwich. It's just so refreshing, and that the crunch coupled with the bread is just one of my favorites. So good. We decided to check out all the different floors on the way down, and of course on, I believe if I'm not mistaken, I think the dining floor with like the tea is like the fourth or fifth floor, and the next floor down, the third or fourth floor, is the kind of beauty floor, beauty and fragrance. And you had me at fragrance, so as soon as I walked down, my eye is attracted to Roja, because Roja is a brand I've heard so many great things about from, again, channels like Erin Nicole or Sharita M. Like they've spoke so highly about some of their scents, and we have a fragrance boutique here in Toronto called Niche Essence, I believe is what it's called. It's where I bought my Le Ravissant by MDCI from, and they have a few Roja, but the Parfum fragrances that I really love, they don't have. So when I saw all those beautiful bottles, my nose went to Elixir Parfum. Oh my goodness, I regret not buying it. It's expensive, but it smelled so good. And just honestly, that entire range of the Parfum fragrances smells so good. My favorites were Elixir Parfum. I love the new Elysium, which I was lucky to get a sample for. This is really beautiful. Scandal is great, and 51 is beautiful. The standout for me, and I ended up getting another fragrance, but I wanted to leave with something Roja. So I did purchase the Supreme Hair Mist, and I purchased Elixir. And inside the box, you just little display, and it smells just like the Elixir Parfum. I like having the whole experience. If I can have like the perfume, the hair mist, a body oil, body lotion, I just want the whole experience. I want the scent of Elixir to last with me all day. It is so beautiful. It is just like the essence of spring joy encapsulated into a fragrance. It's so warm. There's got to be something like a peach, a peony, like all these bright fruits, bright florals. It's just like wearing pastel pink and a big floppy straw sun hat. Actually, I've got a big floppy straw sun hat that I bought at Old Navy on sale for like $10, but it was so cute because it was like a light woven material, and then it had like a gross grain strap with like pastel striping on it, and it was like $10. So sign me up for a good cheapy pastel. When we were at Fortnum and Mason, the sales associate shared with me a brand I've never heard of before, and now I need to explore more of the brand because they were divine. The brand is Hourglass Paris, and oh my goodness, I couldn't make up my mind. I once we smelled them, my husband and I both had this like eye-to-eye communication that I will be leaving here with these fragrances. I'm gonna do my best to pronounce the name. I've tried. My husband's been working with me because my French is not up to snuff, but Quelques Fleurs L'Original. I hope I got that right. Now, I was between this one and the Extrait. I ended up going with this one because it's a little bit fresher. It's a little bit lighter on the skin. And going into spring, summer, I couldn't wait to wear this. Oh my goodness. This is definitely leaning towards a classic scent. In a way, it reminds me of something like White Shoulders by Evelyn, which my great grandma wore. And I don't care if something's deemed as an old lady scent, I will wear it if it smells good to my nose. This does not smell like an old lady scent, more classic scent. This version was released in 1913, and the sales associate told me that it was worn by Marie Antoinette and Princess Diana on her wedding day. It is just the most decadent bouquet of florals. You have a mix of, again, I feel like there's some type of rose in there, like a really beautiful white rose, jasmine, maybe a little bit of baby's breath in there to give that little bit more of that fluffiness to it. There is a little hint of greenness, almost like the leaves and the stems from the rose. It's really, really beautiful. And there's a little bit of a slightly animalic musk in it, but it's not overpowering. Like, it doesn't smell like dirty or overly animalic or even fecal, because there are some niche fragrances that go into that realm with their musk, and it's not for me. It is not for me. And this one, the musk in there, it is slightly animalic, but it's not offensive to my nose. It's a very beautiful classic scent, and I wore this the other day out to brunch, and all of my friends complimented me, and I could smell it a solid 10 hours later before I took my evening shower. It is so beautiful. And if you are someone who likes a very decadent, traditional floral, check this out. It is really beautiful. I believe this was around 180 pounds, so that's like 250 Canadian dollars for the 100 ml size. To me, it's worth it. This will be a repurchase. And I did check this out on Fragrantica because I wanted to know if it was similar to anything. And on Fragrantica, the first thing that pops up under the similar scents is Estee Lauder Beautiful. I have nothing against Estee Lauder Beautiful. I worked for Estee Lauder for several years, and I like Estee Lauder scents. This does not smell like Beautiful. Beautiful, to my nose, is a lot more intense. It's a lot more of a heady floral. This, it's a floral, but not to that intensity. This is more reminiscent of something like the Estee Lauder Beautiful body powder that my grandma used to wear all throughout the 90s. I love that so much. I love anything that reminds me of my family. And so beautiful. So good. So good. The fragrance selection that we were introduced to when we were in London was just incredible, and I love everything. And the fragrance I'm going to wear today is one that my husband actually picked out. He tried it on, he loved it. I tried it on, I loved it. And this was in the Heathrow International Terminal, duty free. This is from the brand Molten Brown, and I did not know Molten Brown had actual fragrances. I've always seen their like hand soaps and things like that, like at Holt Renfrew here in Toronto. I think it's Holt Renfrew, either Holt Renfrew or Hudson's Bay. Flora Luminar, and look at this bottle. I love this giant like golden marble in. This is not my traditional type of fragrance. This is something that smells like something my mom would go for, more that like tropical floral. Like there's got to be some type of, it's either frangipani or tiare flower, that tropical beachy floral. And that's another thing. I always felt like I was an oversprayer. My husband says I'm a horrible oversprayer, but anytime a sales associate tried a fragrance on me, the oily sheen that was left on my skin from them spraying a fragrance on me, I am going to blot off the lip oil because we were going to cover lip products. When I was packing, I packed with me my Huda Beauty Lip Contour 2.0 in the shade Muted Pink. Love it. It's great. I wanted to try out one of the new Lisa Eldridge Sculpt and Shade lip pencils, and the shade I purchased is C1. These pencils come with their own little sharpener. I don't think that the other Lisa Eldridge lip pencils do, but I'm very happy to have a new sharpener. C1, I was expecting this to be a little bit more cool toned, and let me just show you on the back of my hand. So here is Lisa Eldridge, what is this? Sculpt and Shade lip pencil in the shade C1. And I'm going to compare it to my Huda Beauty lip contour in Muted Pink. So here is Huda Beauty Muted Pink, and I feel like Muted Pink is slightly cooler in undertone than shade C1 from Lisa Eldridge, but when you compare C1 to something like N1 or W1, it is cool by comparison. And I do like the shade. It's a nice shade for my natural lip color. It brightens them up a little bit, and it gives my lips warmth. Like if we compare the lower lip versus my top lip, it just gives my lip color a little bit more of a liveliness, and they glide on really easily. But you can see they're applied all over. My lips don't feel as cool in undertone as what I was expecting, but you know, I don't mind. I think it's really nice, and I feel like if it was more cool toned, I wouldn't be as pulled to wear it as I am to wear it. I purchased 2 Lisa Eldridge lipsticks. They have been on my list forever, and I feel like for the last year and a half, I've been saying that I'm going to order them, but I've never ordered them, but I finally got to see them in stores, swatch them, and I purchased them. Let's start with the one I purchased when I purchased the skin tint at Selfridges. This is the Luxuriously Lucent Lip Color in the shade Love of My Life. So here is Love of My Life, really beautiful, cool toned pink. You can see, yeah, compared to C1 lip pencil, it definitely does feel a little bit warmer than Love of My Life. The one I'm going to wear today is the one I was most excited for. This is the shade Rosy Shell, and here is Rosy Shell. Rosy Shell, it's a little bit more of a pink coral compared to Love of My Life. But I feel like this just really feels like summer in a lipstick bullet. It is perfect, and I lost my tissue. I just love this lip color. It feels like summer in a lip color, and after I purchased this the first day I went to Space NK. It was the same day that I purchased the Jo Malone Scarlet Poppy, and after that day, I had to actively make the decision not to put this on because I loved it so much. It's just such a beautiful, easy shade to wear, and that's gonna bring me into the next product I purchased from the Sephora sale. So this is product number 2 from the Sephora sale. As much as I love this, I want to show you the other products, so I'm just gonna give this a quick blot. And I purchased my second shade in the Lawless Forget the Filler Plumping Lip Balm. This is in the shade Cherry Vanilla, and I had read somewhere online this was Hilary Duff's favorite lip gloss color, and I love Hilary Duff, so of course I need to check it out. And I saw it in everything from the shade of the gloss to the way it smells reminds me of that classic cherry chapstick. And even though this looks red, it's not an aggressive red. It's a very lively, fresh red that I keep wearing. So currently, if I'm not wearing this, then I'm wearing Rosy Shell, or I'm doing like I did today and I layer them together, and it just feels like a rosy pink coral shade that is great for spring, summer. And since I did use 2 plumping lip products, between the City Lips Plumping Gloss and the Lawless Forget the Filler, I feel like the City Lips has a little bit more of a tingle initially than the Lawless Forget the Filler. The other shade I have, which I believe is called Lavender Sorbet, has a little bit more tingle than Cherry Vanilla, but between the City Lips and Lawless, I feel like this has a little bit more of a plump, but neither of them hurt. It's not like the Too Faced lip injections that burns, and I don't like using this. It's even less intense than something like the Fenty Gloss Bomb Heat. It's just really beautiful, really easy to wear. And the very last product I purchased, whether from my trip to London or to the Sephora sale, is a hair product, and this is something I've heard so many people rave about. And hold on, let me take out this little clip because I don't need it anymore. So here, all I did today to my hair is I blew dry it, and I used a paddle brush, and then right here on the front fringe piece, just so to keep it from going in my face, I did use a round brush, and I kind of brought it down, and then I pulled it forward, and then I took it away from my face. That way it kind of held in the back position, and that's all. I didn't have to use any type of curling rod, any type of flat iron to get my hair to stay in a place and not look frizzy. I've got a lot of bleach damage, and I've got new growth from PRP treatments and using my scalp care, and things can look frizzy. So that's what made me very curious to try out the Color Wow Dream Coat. Now, the downside of this product is that you have to use quite a bit. You have to thoroughly saturate your hair and then use heat and tension to kind of really activate it. But oh my goodness, my hair looks good. In my opinion, it looks a lot better than it normally does. And just since starting the PRP journey and really starting social media, seeing my hair a lot more often, I've become a lot more hypercritical about my hair. So I really enjoy this, and I like that I only have to use it once every 4th wash. So even though you use a lot, I feel like it's going to last me for quite a while. And I believe full price, this size is 200 mils. I think this is not as bad as some hair products. So that is everything. This is going to be a very long video, so I'm very curious to see how much time I can trim off of it. And until the next time, I hope you're taking care of yourself. Thank you again for all of your really lovely comments, all of your messages on Instagram. Thank you so much for just being so wonderful and working with me to create this little community of people who just are so wonderful. I thoroughly enjoy interacting with all of you, and I like that more of us are interacting on Instagram, because in the comment section it's so like, thank you. You can't really have a full-fledged conversation in there, whereas on Instagram we can just kind of talk one-on-one, talk about new lip colors, all these different things. So always feel free to say hi, and I will see you in the next video. Take care. Bye, y'all.